Hey, we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. As usual, it's me, Jake, and today we're talking about Nobody Wants to Die. We're taking a deep dive into noir with this one. It's developed by a small team from Poland calling themselves Critical Hit Games, and just from the visuals alone, this one looks like it's punching way above its weight. The game is immediately eye-catching with its Art Deco inspired future and cool rewind powers, and it looks fantastic, but is there more going on here with the gameplay, or is it just kind of like a glorified tech demo? When this was first announced, we were intrigued right away from the jump with the first screenshots, so that's why we decided to jump into this one. It just released, so yeah. And just so you know, this footage was captured on PC, and this video is as spoiler-free as possible. The important thing to know going in this is that above everything else, it is a narrative adventure game. It's first person, but it's not an action game. There's no shooting at all. Well, I mean, at least you're not shooting anything as a game mechanic. You follow the story, you get a few dialogue options once in a while, and mostly look around environments. The thing that makes this game stand out, other than the meticulously designed city, is the reconstructor, this thing on the guy's hand. It's a tool that allows you to recreate a crime scene in real time, sort of like those brain dance moments in Cyberpunk, or a little further back here, Remember Me. That's the primary gameplay you're going to be doing here, though. You go to a crime scene, you scan it with your reconstructor, and hunt for clues to piece together the when, the why, and the hows. These events are the real highlight of the game because the murder scenes are so elaborately staged and complex. They usually have a lot of moving parts and tend to end with pretty dramatic explosions. Carefully piecing together everything in order to paint this complete picture of each crime scene is a lot of fun. They really put in a lot of work here to make these crimes visually interesting and actually exciting to see unfold. It doesn't feel like in other games with this where it's an afterthought objective to keep you busy. It's the whole thing here, and they go in on it. There's not a lot of these crime scenes from a sheer numbers standpoint, but like I said, they put a lot of work into them and there aren't any boring ones. The game doesn't waste your time with any super basic crimes padding things out. Every single one is pretty compelling. Now, none of that would matter if the story wasn't engaging, right? So from the start, the game just throws you into this fascinating vision of a retro future New York. Skyscrapers block out the sky, but people still watch drive-in movies. Hover cars exist, but people still send messages using pneumatic tubes. It's anachronistic as hell, but that's just what they're going for, a sort of heightened Bioshock-ish world. I don't know. The story begins with a film strip explaining that a miracle substance called Icarite allows people to transfer their consciousness from one body to another. So essentially allowing everyone to have eternal life. That sounds great. I mean, who doesn't want to live forever? But there are actually downsides to this deal. So if you want a new body, you have to bid on it in an auction. And everybody is required to get a replacement body, and you have to pay a subscription for it that's mandatory. So everyone gets to live forever, but everyone's living in debt, crammed into apartments like sardines, and people are mostly generally miserable unless you're one of the lucky few who can actually afford the good new bodies. It's an interesting sci-fi idea that is presented in a unique way. I mean, yeah, it sounds like it's just altered carbon, and yeah, it's on some similar ideas, but there's a lot more emphasis on the financial burden of eternal life and Nobody Wants to Die, which grounds the story in what would otherwise be a pretty unrecognizable futuristic world. And what a world it is, man. The visuals are astounding throughout the game. Everything looks great and has that personal touch of a skilled artist. From the Baroque crime scenes to the more mundane hallways, the game is just packed with visual details that just make you want to stop and look around. We'll admit we did play the game on a beefy PC with an NVIDIA 4090 on max settings, but we tried the game out on a more mid-level PC and found that it performed fairly well there too. The game is nice enough to actually cache the shaders before starting the game, love that, so that deals with a lot of the slowdown and hiccups and stuff. It's not perfect, still notice some stuttering here and there, but never for more than a few seconds. Now, we could go on and on about how great this game looks and how creative some of the world building is, when you return to your main guy's apartment and you try to use the bathroom, you find out that this place is such a dystopian nightmare that you don't even get a bathroom to yourself. The toilet is on an elevator that is shared with like multiple tenants. It's a mess. There are fun little touches and moments like that, you know, like how your guy gets a familiarization party invitation so people can get used to someone's new body, or rows of different smells that are used for aromatherapy to help people with new bodies synchronize. It's all interesting stuff that paints a very weird but interesting setting. No, it doesn't actually make a lot of sense. I mean, seriously, there are people flying around in hover cars that look like the Model T, but who cares? It's cool and it's unique. Now, we could go on and on about all that stuff, the world design, the visuals, because it is fantastic, but unfortunately, the actual gameplay isn't quite as strong. Now, we said before, we like the investigations, and I stand by that, but the actual mechanics related to them are very simple. Almost too simple. There's not a lot of room to really make it feel like you're uncovering clues on your own. You're mostly just following the prompts and advancing the story. You go up and scan the body, which like lets you turn on the reconstructor, then you rewind to the one glowing part with a clue, your guy says something, then you go to the next glowing segment.
Himself up here.
You already have all the data. Open the fucking safe before it all collapses.
Roger that.
Sometimes you use an X-ray device to scan something, sometimes you use a UV light to scan something, but that's about it. It's about as interactive and complex as the investigations in the Arkham games. It's very hand-holdy, unfortunately. There are other things to do, at least. One thing I quickly noticed is that you can easily just follow the prompts and race through a crime scene, but if you do, then you'll actually end up missing a lot of important clues that can affect the outcome of a case. There are choices to make that can affect the story. They don't completely change things, it mostly just affects the fate of the main characters and what your main guy does for the ending, but it's enough to make it feel like your choices do matter. Little things get referenced and certain choices are brought up in dialogue. Sometimes finding clues or picking some choices allow you to unlock new options when talking to people, which can change your relationship with that character. There's not a lot of people to talk to though, you know, you're mostly just talking to your unseen partner and the chief over a phone, with the occasional interruption by visions of your guy's dead wife. You can choose to play it dry, be a drunk, you can choose to follow orders or investigate your own way, and a couple of other things. So there are definitely some choices here that feel like they matter. Now, we don't want to speak too much about the story because that's really what we're playing the game for, but the basic gist of it is as film noir as it gets. You're a down-on-your-luck detective coerced into a shady, off-the-books job that reveals a criminal conspiracy targeting the most influential and powerful people in the city. Now, you're in too deep, of course, over your head, and your guy has some hard-boiled narration for any situation. It's a game that seems like it intentionally embraces those cliches to make its more out-there sci-fi concepts easier to digest, and for the most part, it really works. The voice acting for the main pair is great. They've got a really good back and forth, but some of the more secondary characters are a bit more shaky. They sound like people doing a voice, like forcing a voice, rather than it be natural. It's not all great, but like I said, at least the main characters match the part. And one thing that we'll definitely credit the story for is that for a game with no action, it's still fairly thrilling, with a fast pace and lots of twists and turns that kept us engaged. It's not all quote-unquote boring stuff, you know? Each one of these crimes is so crazy that I just really wanted to put all the pieces together and figure out what the hell was actually going on. Going back and watching the whole thing back at the end is satisfying, even if it doesn't feel exactly like your own brilliant puzzle solving skills are what got you to this point. Like I said, it's mostly the game just pointing you where to go and hold your hand. So on the one hand, it's kind of disappointing, but I will say that it does keep things moving. You know, you're never at a point where you're stuck in the game. There's a forward momentum to it that pushes you along to every new revelation. It keeps the story interesting, even if it's at the expense of the actual investigation mechanics, which, like I will say again, they are very simple. And it is a short game, only clocking in at around 5 to 6 hours. Personally, I would have preferred something just a little longer, maybe gotten 1 or 2 more crime scenes, because that was the stuff I liked the most. But still, I was overall fairly satisfied with my time with Nobody Wants to Die. It's a fantastic looking game that's a real graphics card showcase. It's also got some amazing art direction, but that gameplay is ultimately really basic. So if you're someone who doesn't mind games that are basically, you know, like a walking around simulator, like a What Remains of Edith Finch or a Firewatch, then I think you'll enjoy this one. It's got a little bit more gameplay than those games, but only by a little, you know? Everything that happens is primarily there just to push an interesting story forward. People looking for a challenging investigation game might be frustrated here because there's not really a whole lot to it. Like, this isn't the case of the Golden Idol, and I don't think it was really trying to be fair. So if you go into Nobody Wants to Die with the right expectations, I think there's a lot to appreciate here. The voice acting from the 2 main protagonists is very good. The music brings that jazzy film noir atmosphere you probably want, and the graphics are some of the best we've seen in a minute. The world building, all the sci-fi stuff is really cool. So yeah, at 6 hours for like $25, it is more of a tech demo than a real game for a lot of people, but the story is solid and the world is interesting. So whether you play it now or $25 is still too steep for you, just know that it is a really cool, really intriguing, interesting thing. It's much more of an audio-visual experience that's got some interactive elements more than anything, but I thought it was kind of cool. But hey, that's a before you buy. You know how this goes by now. We give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion, and now we want to hear yours down in the comments. Did this game pique your interest when it was first announced, like it did with us? Did you go in expecting more? Did you know what it was? Are you enjoying it? Are you still on the fence with it? Let us know anything you think about this one. Maybe you haven't even heard of it. Let's talk anything Nobody Wants to Die down in the comments. But if this video helped you out one way or the other, all you got to do to help us out, you know, like throw us a tip, is just clicking the like button. Thank you. Subscribe if you're new, because we put out videos every single day. But either way, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you guys next.
And get the crowd pushed back before it comes down on top of us.
Sarah, mute this channel.
What? You allergic to orders?
Yes, I am.